Let's do it.
These news stories are kind of silly. This first one is especially silly because, like I said, nothing happened this week. And I know something probably happens, but nothing happened when I Googled it like 3 days ago. And then I Googled today. And then I Googled the day before that, and nothing happened.
Or there's nothing we want to talk about
Mhm.
because everything's like whenever we look anything up, there's not a lot of big things that happen. It's like little things, this random city in this random state. And it's like, well, I don't care about Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, and everyone's just talking about the weather.
Yes.
If I get one more news article being like, it's the hottest that it's been since 1899. Literally,
Literally.
I literally just Googled news, and 3 out of the 4 news things are U.S. heat wave, a third of Americans under extreme heat advisories.
Yeah.
Like, that makes sense because a third of the Americans live in the hottest states.
Exactly.
Why is BBC writing on this? BBC, go away. No one cares.
They said we gotta get our viewers up somehow, get our readers engaged. Let's talk about the weather.
Oh, okay. This story is quite interesting. So, a TikTok plastic surgeon who live
What
streamed
hope you
what? Instead of talking about the weather, I actually want to talking about something that's quite interesting. A TikTok plastic surgeon who live streamed procedures just lost their license. So this is an article from the Washington Post, which, like, let me go off by saying, Washington Post, you are my friend today because you did quite a good job on this article. Really roasted her for everything that she was worth. And you let me read your article without making me pay for it. So I appreciate that. So the plastic surgeon known as on TikTok as Dr. Roxy has been banned from practicing medicine in Ohio after authorities determined that she injured patients while live streaming the procedures to hundreds of thousands of viewers. The State Medical Board of Ohio on Wednesday permanently revoked the medical license of Catherine Roxanne Graw and fined her $4,500 based on her failure to meet standard of care. Board spokesperson Jerica Stewart told the Washington Post.
It seems odd that she went by like a shortened version of her middle name because you're like
Yeah,
she's clearly like she knew she was doing something wrong, and if she used her actual name she would have legal issues.
it's a very stage name.
Hmm.
Trust me, this gets worse. So the board found that while Bra was performing surgeries, she live streamed parts of her patients' procedures on TikTok, spoken to the camera, and answered viewer questions from some of her more than 825,000 followers. Sorry, 825,000 followers.
That's a lot.
What's insane to me is that I didn't realize she was doing this during the procedures.
Hmm.
At least 3 patients reported having severe complications, infections. So infections, a perforated intestine, and loss of brain function. And they need medical care after Gra operated on them at Roxy Plastic Surgery, her practice in Powell, Ohio, according to the board. Gra, 44, I don't know why they listed her age there, okay, told the Post on Thursday that she was obviously devastated over her patient's complicated and the board's decision to permanently revoke her medical license. But she maintained that live streaming the surgeries to anywhere between 100,000 and 500,000 TikTok users per video did not affect the procedures. Gra, who's facing lawsuits from the 3 patients who needed care after she performed surgery on them, also accused the medical board of bullying her during her suspension in the week's hearing. And so this is a quote from her. She says, "Nobody wants a complication, and then we never want things to go poorly, but any complications that happened with me were not because I was not paying attention. My whole life and goal is to give these people confidence and make them more beautiful. And unfortunately, they suffer the complications, and I feel sad for them. I would never want anything bad to them happen to them." And then she says, so Grob built up a considerable social media following on TikTok, Snapchat, and Instagram. After years of live streaming her patient surgeries on Snapchat, she said to the TikTok in hope of breaking down the scary wall between doctors and patients. She said patients signed consent forms allowing Dr. Roxy to live stream the procedures to help demystify the secrecy around surgeries. She says the stuff we do, there's a little bit educational and answering people's questions, and it's a little fun and silly. And I know people look at that and think it's unprofessional.
I say,
I understand like wanting to like break down the barrier between like patients and like doctors and not have doctors be so scary. Like personally I love Dr. Mike. I think he does a great job of that.
uh-huh.
But her if I was getting like a serious surgery, because like breast augmentation, tummy tuck, like those are serious surgeries, and
Mhm.
she referred to it as a little fun and silly.
Exactly.
I don't know how I
Also,
feel
these,
about that.
yeah. And then were these consent forms mixed in with about 20 others papers you had to sign? Like,
Mhm.
was it like one of the last pages where by that point you're like, I am so over reading this?
Yeah. Also, like I am all for like a little like whimsical little person. Like I love people who just like spend their lives like floating everywhere with like little fairy wings and like
Uh-huh.
think that like life is made by touching grass. But
Exactly.
not so much but like the idea of being like, oh, it's like so fun and whimsical while I cut you open.
Exactly.
Okay. Here's the kicker for me. So the Ohio Medical Board had warned Gra about live streaming her surgeries in a letter sent in 2018, cautioning the doctor over the need to maintain patient privacy when sharing photos or videos via social media. After the board sent another letter in 2021, Gra notified the state that she had completed remedial education courses about plastic surgery and professionalism ethics, including a course on ethical social media, but she continued live streaming the procedures through at least October last year, according to the board. So she was suspended in November, and the
Mhm.
three cases cited by the board in this decision were live streamed between December 2020 and March 2022, which I think that basically means that she was operating these while she had suspended license, but it doesn't confirm. So they go in detail through each of these surgeries. So for the first one, after Gra performed a liposuction and a Brazilian butt lift on a patient who was under anesthesia, anesthesia. I can't say that word.
Yeah.
Anesthesia
State anesthesia. Yeah, I think
in
so.
December 2020. The patient said she suffered severe abdominal pain and cramping that forced her to have several surgeries on her stomach. About a year later, a patient who had a breast augmentation was admitted to the hospital days later for what turned out to be an infection that required her breast implants to be removed. Another patient had come in for follow-up cosmetic procedures, including liposuction. Liposuction. In March 2022, was hospitalized days later for a perforated intestine. That patient suffered bacterial infections in her abdomen, as well as a loss of brain function from the amount of toxins that were found in her blood, according to the board. That is so sad.
Uh, like
Um, mhm.
these all seem like very much like these plastic surgeries that she's performing are like if she's live streaming them, that is very much a breach of privacy. You're like just out there exposed for everyone, basically.
Dr. Grau's social media was more important to her than the lives of the patients she treated, a state law lawyer arguing for Grau's license to be revoked said. Gra made major surgeries with potentially life-altering complications seem like one big party, the Columbus Dispatch reported.
Exactly.
Since her business closed in November, Gra said she's had to let go of 20 employees and found herself scrambling for any kind of work now that she can no longer practice in Ohio. These potential employers see my resume and it says doctor, and they're like, "What are you going to do?" She told the Post. I mean, what I did on TikTok to make people smile and make them feel good, it doesn't mean I'm not paying attention to my patients.
Just like it very much felt like her main goal was her TikTok following, not her patients. Like
Yeah,
as a doctor, you're supposed to care for your patients, make your patients happy and healthy before you make the internet happy.
exactly. This is
Like if you're a doctor and like Dr. Mike or what other people like that where you're making these videos but you're not live streaming operations, like you're being like, okay, this is this
mhm.
uh disease and this is what causes it, or I'm not a doctor. But
They record surgeries all the time,
yeah,
but they don't live stream them. And
no,
like, and also like other doctors watching doctors perform a surgery isn't live streaming.
exactly.
But when
Like,
you but when you have someone who is in like such a vulnerable point, they're risking, and there's so many risks that are associated with any surgery.
yeah.
And they're
And
out there
stop
and
are like
mhm,
when she's like, yeah, and I would answer questions during the live streams to all my viewers. It's like those are things, if people have questions about this, you do that not while you're performing surgery. Like,
mhm, yeah.
but yeah.
Anyway, I took a couple notes on this that I want to talk about. So she has some things there. She's like a package thing she calls mommy makeovers, which are breast augmentations, tummy tucks, liposuction, and a couple of other things. I'm not anti plastic surgery. I think that if people want plastic surgery and it makes them feel confident and they're doing it in like a healthy way,
Mhm.
like something they're doing for themselves and not something they're doing like prove something, then I think that's great. But I just like don't. I that the thing with mommy makeover is like stuff like that. That's like such a like that's such a like a misogynistic thing for someone to say. Like
Yeah.
that's just an awful way to describe that.
Yeah.
And then she the way that she conducts her business with like the priority being the TikTok and then her patients, it totally reminds me of our family vloggers episode where we talked about
Exactly.
how the parents view their kids as income first and then their kids.
Mhm.
She's viewing these patients as views first and then the patient.
Exactly, and as a doctor, your main priority should be your patient and your patient only, and
Mhm.
not the 5 patients out in the waiting room. Your current
Exactly.
patient is the one you're concerned about at that moment,
Mhm.
unless you're at an emergency room and you have somebody bleeding out in the waiting room. That might be a little different, but yeah.
Yeah. And then my final question on this was like, do we agree that her license should be suspended?
Well, yes, because she's putting the views before the patient, like,
Mhm.
she does not have her priorities straight.
Yeah, and I hope that this sets a precedent for any doctor out there that is live streaming or trying to make profit off of the surgeries they perform. I'm
Mhm.
all for you spreading information and spreading useful information and kind of starting to break down those like unnecessary barriers between patients and doctors, but they're also like healthcare professionals, and there also has to be some sort of barrier, and this is it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Doesn't that wouldn't that violate, like, the HIPAA laws? I don't think I said that right.
I think it should. I feel like it does,
Yeah,
which is
because
I
like
think we
putting
fine.
out like too much detail about like the patient or whatever violates that.
Because like remember the abortion doctor from a couple months ago,
Mm-hmm.
like how they said that she violated HIPAA. It was a
Uh,
couple of episodes ago, and when she said she violated HIPAA, and we were both like, I don't feel like technically she violated HIPAA, but it was still a bad thing for her to do. And it
mm-hmm.
was like we talked about like how difficult of a place it is. It like puts you in because you don't agree with what the doctor did, but her talking about it wasn't violating HIPAA. This is 100% violating HIPAA.
Exactly. Like,
I really hope that Dr. Mike ends up responding about this because I know he
mm-hmm.
talked about those nurses from a couple from those nurses from like early this year. Do you remember hearing about them? They're nurses and they were like listing their icks about their patients.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about them and was like basically like found like all these different health like kind of influencer healthcare professionals came out about
Mm-hmm.
them. I hope that we get some more opinions on what these other influencers are saying on her getting her license for Spotify.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I'll do a follow up next week or on the Instagram.
Okay.
Okay.
Are we ready for the next news story?
We are.
Okay. Might be the most confusing news story. I mean, we've
Mm-hmm.
had a few of those, but this one, I am so confused. So the GOP adopted abortion and transgender surgery. I'm missing half my sentence and I don't know what I was thinking. So the GOP adopted abortion and transgender surgery amendments. And just a little side note, I don't know, but I always find it really weird when they link transgender surgeries and abortion together in the same thing.
What are we amending?
If I knew, I would tell you.
I'm so confused. What are we amending our party platform?
I don't
Because we're
know.
not amending the Constitution.
Yeah. Um. Mhm. So that this happened while they were working to pass the annual defense policy bill on Friday. It barely passed, but they put in provisions to bar Pentagon spending on abortion and transgender surgeries, which, why is the Pentagon funding abortion and transgender surgeries? I don't know.
Hold up. We're amending transgender and abortion surgeries from a bill related to our defense spending.
Huh?
I'm so confused.
I am, yeah. So barely passed on Friday. Republicans added parts to bar the Pentagon from spending, and then the legislation passed for 219 votes to 210. It still will have to be reconciled with the Senate. This was a very interesting. 4 Republicans voted against it, and 4 Democrats voted for it.
For one, that's a narrow vote by only 9. That's pretty narrow. 2, that's odd. Who voted against it?
It was, where is it? Ken Buck of Colorado, Andy
Mm.
Biggs, and and Eli Crane of Arizona,
Hmm.
and Thomas Macy of Kentucky. And then the 4 Democrats who voted with the Republicans was Donald Davis of North Carolina, Jared Golden of Maine, Marie Gluesenkamp Perez of Washington, have no clue who that is, and Gabe Vasquez of New Mexico, and I'm pretty sure I just butchered his last name. The legislation authorizes $886 billion for national defense for the Pentagon and another $32 billion for nuclear weapons, and somehow abortion and transgender surgeries are not included in that now, but why they were
Did you
included in
say
it.
nuclear weapons?
Yep, nuclear weapons.
I'm so confused.
I read multiple different articles and I am more confused than when I started. It feels very much like when the Democrats would slide in abortion funding in random bills.
Maybe that's what it's preventing.
Yeah. Except I'm like confused why it was in the what's it called? The defense policy bill.
So was this passed just in the House and it's going to the Senate, or was this passed
Yes.
in Congress in general?
This was just passed in the House, it's going to the Senate.
Mhm.
But I'm like, I don't know. Just seems odd to just place it in this bill unless there's that many, the Pentagon is funding that many abortions, and but I'm like, that doesn't make sense either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very confusing. That's all I know. And also, $886 billion is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. I don't know where else that could be going to, but do we need that much money? Who is attacking us currently?
Ourselves?
Like, do we need that much money
Devil?
for defense? Oh, I mean, I guess we might. I guess World War III is probably coming soon. Never mind. You know what? That's fair. That is fair. Weird to
Remember when everyone was like a couple months ago, or when like Russia first started the war with Ukraine, and everyone's like, we might be in World War III tomorrow. Like,
Oh, you know why I was worried about that? Because right around that time is when the government, specifically the US Marines that reside in Oregon, decided that
uh-huh.
they really, really wanted me. And I was like, I know the draft no longer exists, but I will be drafted. Like they will find a way.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Oh, my biggest thing was I was like, I'm not home. Like, I know it wouldn't happen in the United States, but it would be like, it felt weird that I wouldn't be with my family.
Mhm. And we all
Also, technically, there was articles and they came out with statements being like, yeah, and anyone from this age and this age, if we were ever to do a draft again, would be drafted. And it's like, yeah, I'm 20, healthy, and
I would love if we could start lobbying to get some legislation written up that women cannot be drafted.
I would also.
I say we start a new club at GCU.
Okay.
The Women Against Women's Suffrage movement.
Okay.
We still get to vote. We no longer allowed to be drafted.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, so that's that bill. Have or whatever piece of legislation. More confusing than any other piece recently. Okie dokie.
I'm trying to. Did you say IKEA Adokity?
I said okity dokity. Because it came out wrong. I was supposed to say okay. Okie dokie.
Oh, I thought you were doing okay. So there's an Dimitri Martin, who is a comedian, has a
Mhm.
joke about how um like when people are like upset, they'll like use like the longer forms of words.
Uh-huh.
And so okie okay is actually the short form of okie dokie. So
Uh-huh.
if like someone's like hurt, it would be like Are you okie dokie? Yeah, I'm okie dokie. And I think about that all the time. Okay.
Okay.
So, if you haven't been paying attention to our Instagrams,
Mm-hmm.
and if you haven't been paying attention to our Instagrams, then what are you even doing here?
Exactly.
Go give us a follow. But if you haven't been paying attention to our Instagrams or the Instagram, um, the Sound of Freedom,
Mm-hmm.
which is an Angel Studios movie, which Angel Studios also did Passion of the Christ. The movie was directed by Alejandro Gomez Monteverde. It came out July 4th of 2023. So far, it's made like 57 million.
Something like
57 million. And yeah, we'll kind of get into so we're gonna do a loose plot like a plot summary of the movie. We're gonna talk about kind of our thoughts on our thoughts about it, some standout moments, because we both saw the movie, because saw it like 5 times.
it's only 3, but close enough.
We'll do a quick thing on the media's absolutely insane reaction to this movie. And then we'll finish up with some information about like human trafficking statistics, um, the organization that the protagonist created, and then kind of like a call to action of like some activism stuff that you can do. So why don't we start off with our plot summary of the movie, Callista?
Okay. So the movie opens in Honduras, where we meet a father and his 2 children, Miguel and Rosia. You 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 tried to set me up for failure there.
No, I just never heard someone pronounce Honduras with that many syllables.
Honduras.
You said Honduras?
Did not. Well, okay.
Mhm.
They're approached by a child modeling company. However, after dropping off his kids, it's revealed that the company was a cover to sell children into sexual slavery.
After a haunting title card littered with footage of kidnappers were taken to Coleccio, California. When I read that, I also autocorrected in my head to be Mexico. Coleccio, California. We're introduced to Tim Ballard, the protagonist of the film, and at the time, a special agent for the Homeland Security investigations. We see him and his team bust the man who's distributing child pornography.
Upon further investigation into this man, Tim is able to arrest another man who purchases the children featured and sneaks them across the American border. Tim is also able to save a young boy, who we learn is Miguel, from the intro sequence. Tim befriends Miguel, learning about his sister and the other children that were kidnapped. He ends up reuniting Tim with his. No, he ends up. Not right. I've watched the movie 3 times. I know that is not the case.
It's actually it took a different turn. Miguel ends up becoming the hero, reunites him with his father,
Yeah.
becomes an 8-year-old Cape Crusader.
Tim ends up reuniting Miguel with his father and begins his search for the sister.
Tim's search takes him to Cartagena, Colombia, where he partners up with former cartel member Vampiro. Vampiro suggests his wealth. Suggests? No, he doesn't. Vampiro uses his wealth to buy children out of sexual slavery and free them. The 2 of them recruit Colombian cop Jorge and millionaire Paul to set up a sting operation to catch the ring of traffickers that took Miguel and Rocio.
During the operation, they're able to capture all the members of the ring and free 54 children. Unfortunately, Rosia is not one of them. However, when Interrogating one of the traffickers, Poirier learns that she was sold to the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. He informs Tim and Vampiro, but tells them that there's nothing more they can do because it's rebel territory.
Vampiro comes up with a plan to pose as doctors so they'd be allowed into the region. Upon entering enemy territory, Tim and Vampiro are intercepted by the rebels and learn that only one of them is allowed to go forward. Tim enters alone where he finds Rosia, who's being used as a personal sex slave for the leader of the village.
That night, he is forced to kill the leader in order to help her escape. The two of them narrowly make it to freedom. The movie concludes with Rosia being reunited with her brother and father, and the family going back to Honduras. That one I said wrong. I said Honduras.
We also pronounce Rocio about 6 different ways, too.
Okay, so the first time I watched the movie, I thought it was Lucia, or something like that. Lucille. Something along those lines, not Rocio. I don't know why the whole time, and I was so confused because I was like by the last time I heard it, Rocio, and I was like, I thought it was Lucille this whole time.
Did he say if they're still in contact? Like, does he still talk to them at all?
Yes, one of the interviews, he's still in contact with the children they saved.
Mm-hmm.
And he said eventually that they're telling their stories, like the ones that are willing to talk, obviously.
Yeah.
They're not going to force them to talk.
Okay. Let's start out with our general thoughts.
I would say, so I saw it 3 times, and the second and third time were harder than the first time because like the first time you're like figuring out the plot and everything, and it's like hard and like sad, but like once you have the plot and everything figured out, and then you realize you like see all the extra details and all like the work they put into it, and then the reality of everything, it is so hard.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be controversial. And maybe I'm just feeling really cynical right now. Did you find him likable in the movie?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just wondering.
Did you not?
Not really. Like, I appreciate what he did. I just don't find his personality likable.
Mm.
I think the thing that I didn't like about the movie is like when he kept not finding her, I feel like what he was doing was kind of discounting the work that he was doing for the other kids.
Yeah.
But I
also
I have an issue with a lot of different things, and that is I feel like is a me issue with a lot of like different documentaries I've watched.
Yeah. And I think like the biggest thing he did save this little boy, but then he thought about this little boy growing up without his sister, and then he thought about this father going home to an empty bed, like, and then he's like, as a father, he's like, well, if my daughter was missing, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if I like knew, even if it was years later, I would be like, my daughter hasn't returned, like. So, like, I understand, and I'm sure some of it could have been the way they portrayed it in the movie. I'm sure he, like, didn't just forget about the other kids. Like, obviously, he still is in contact with them. I was listening to an interview, and they've paid for scholarships for them. They've helped them get jobs. Like, one of them just called and was like, I got a job, like, for my dream company, like, and, like, so I don't think he just was like, well, I gotta find this one girl. Because then they found others, and they were glad they found the other ones in the island raid.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. That was like the kind of the one scene in the movie. I was like, okay. but I
So
also just think that's like human flaw. And I was just
yeah,
like,
and I
it's
think part of it's like there's only so much time you have in a movie because
mhm,
people aren't gonna watch a 6 hour long movie. We'll watch a 10 season show that has,
watch.
a
I
bunch of
would watch a
episodes.
6 hour long movie. Okay, how many people watch like the Ten Commandments every year? That movie's so long.
The movie is so long. I've watched it like twice.
I've never watched it. I've never been allowed to watch it because we had to wake up early for Easter, and it comes on at like 8 p.m.
Well, you got it from the library once.
It come on like 8 p.m., which means it wouldn't be over till like 1 in the morning.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I like it also was playing once, like randomly. In the middle, most random time in the middle of the year. It was like 2 p.m. on like a Tuesday.
It's so odd. Like a Tuesday, like October.
Yeah, like it was really weird.
It's very odd.
But yeah. So like you only have so much time in a movie.
Yeah.
So some of the background details are clearly missing.
Mhm.
And but yeah, I don't know.
I think here's my issue is I think what I was going in wanting was a documentary, and what I got
Uh-huh.
was a narrative, like not necessarily an action, but like kind of like a thriller film based on a
Mhm.
real story, and that's like what I asked from it. And I think that the entire message of it is so good, and I think it is an incredible movie. But I think what I wanted out of it was more of the documentary side of
I
it.
definitely went in thinking it was more documentary.
Mm,
Like I knew obviously I'd seen like the trailer and stuff and I knew that there was some more like thriller aspect, but I thought there was going to be a lot more
mm,
like documentary style. But then it was just
mm.
thriller. But it was really good and the
Yeah.
storyline was
Mm.
well
I
put
think
out.
I'm making it sound like I don't like the movie. I do like the movie, and I liked everything that it stands for.
Mhm.
But what I came in was I came in thinking that it was going to be like a documentary, and that's what I was kind of hoping for it from it.
Yeah.
And what I got was something different, and it was different than what I expected. And
Mhm.
I don't know how much I don't know if it was a documentary. I don't know how I would have reacted the other way.
Exactly. And I think like in order to make it engaging and make it have results, I think they did made the right decision in making it more of a thriller and including those like aspects of actual things that happened versus just making a documentary because so many people if they saw oh this movie's a documentary I'm not watching it that's boring I don't like documentaries so I think the decision to make it more of a thriller was a good decision
Mhm,
uh, because I think now
mhm.
more people will be willing to watch it.
Yeah. I would just say that it's really like personally, it's really cool to see you personally see you get really excited about a movie. Because you know me, I love movies. I watch a lot of movies, and so
uh,
like every single other day, I'm like, here's every detail of the last movie I just watched. But I feel like it's very fun to. It's very like it's very refreshing to see you get really excited about
and then
something.
I've like listened to like the different interviews and stuff and like the backstory, and it's just like I think part of it's because like now I'm like, wait, like I want to help someone.
Yeah.
Like I want to help them.
The absolute crazy part about this film is the media's reaction to it. What is truly the best way to show your colors is to completely try and discredit the movie and say that it's something about the QAnon, which no one has ever heard before this day.
Exactly. I did have
Every
to
single
I did have to look it up.
Mhm.
It's a conspiracy theory party. We should have added it to last week's episode.
Oh yeah.
You were like, what episode? Should have just added it. But it's literally so basically they're saying it's a conspiracy theory? Like human trafficking, child pornography, like these are conspiracy theories? Like, and then there's some of them that are like, well, Jim Caviezel is part of the QAnon, but I don't know. I don't know if that's true. All I know is the actual Tim Ballard goes, I have no clue what QAnon is, so I don't know why they're associating this movie with it.
What?
Like, I have no clue.
I think there was the White House basement. They said weekly meetings.
Yeah.
How do we discredit this? How do we make it so they don't? How do we like cover our tracks about like the Epstein thing?
Exactly.
And they're like, well, and the Clintons are like, well, we already killed Epstein, and I thought we were done with that. But they're like, no, this movie's coming out, and they're like, oh, we could, and then they like spin a wheel of excuses, and it lands on.
Because it's a superhero movie for dads with brain worms. Whatever the heck that means.
Rolling Stone has notified me that I'm out of free articles. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Especially after this article. Yeah, I don't. It's absolutely insane. And I've been seeing people on TikTok just trying to discredit it too. And then the people responding to them being like, so you're a pedophile.
Exactly.
Anti-Semitic.
So, apparently Rolling Stone doesn't know what a brainworm is.
Anti-Semitic?
Oh, that's a new one.
How is it anti-Semitic?
Because a brainworm is a microscopic parasite roundworm that infests the brain of large hoofed animals, such as deer. So you just there's a bunch of bucks sitting around the campfire. They have a projector. They're watching an outdoor movie. They're watching The Sound of Freedom. They're the ones, the superhero movie for dads. But I don't know how it's anti-Semitic.
Is Sound of Freedom QAnon adjacent? Y'all use my favorite words.
I saw that one, and that was the first thing I thought of.
The movie's offender says that its success proves that Hollywood all too often overlooks potential of films that appeal to religious conservatives. That accomplishment reflects a demand by an undeserved audience who are hungry for entertainment that reflects their values and beliefs. And I am one who has been critical about some of the like Pure Flix films that I feel are like truly bad. Like they don't put an effort to be good, but it's a good movie. Like I feel like I know I was like critical of it, but I was like critical of it in like very small micro critical ways. And because like I'm okay.
I think the biggest thing with the way you felt about the movie was you went in thinking I'm getting a documentary, and then it wasn't that.
And I was like, and then I was like, dang, I kind of wanted to watch a documentary, but I was also that was really, really good. Love the documentary. Okay, let me stop. Quick side note, quick little fun side note. Allison's favorite documentary is on Netflix, and it's called Casting JonBenet Ramsey. And basically, the entire premise is that they go to the hometown of JonBenet Ramsey, and they go to the hometown here, and then they're telling all these local actors that they're casting them for for a movie that's made about like the conspiracy of her death. And then in it, it's the entire casting process, and they're like interviewing all the actors and like asking their opinions on it, but also like showing them like acting it out. And so it kind of like shows the way that they portray their character based on who they think killed her. And the ending shot is like one continuous shot, and it's so cool, and it's a very good documentary. And it's so weird because it's my favorite plane movie. So anytime I fly on a plane, I watch it. And so there's people who probably think I'm absolutely insane.
Rolling Stone also did an article called Why Anti-Trafficking Experts Are Torching Sound of Freedom.
I saw that.
Who's an anti-trafficking expert? Maybe Tim Ballard, who, went and rescued these kids that the movie is literally based off of.
It's not paranoid or QAnon adjacent to bring much needed attention to horrors that are too real, Madeline Kieran wrote at National Review. If the film fuels a moral panic about sex trafficking, the result will be, at worst, wasted energy and a disproportionate use of resources. But it could turn out that Americans are underestimating the problem. The movie performs a valuable service by reminding us, as long as children are being abused, the rest of us ought to care. The exploitation of children is a real problem that no one besides the exploiters want. Rich Waxwell wrote, I think it's a Jewish last name. What's more, Sound of Freedom is well acted, it looks expensive, and it moves at a rapid clip. But it's difficult to untangle the film from its right-wing associations, including endorsements from Elon Musk, and Ivanka Trump. What's wrong with Ivanka Trump? What's wrong with Ivanka Trump? I love Ivanka. She's my favorite Trump. I can't say I wasn't entertained in some way. That's how propaganda works. Like, I want them. Okay, this is what I want to explain to me. What is the propaganda for? What is the goal of the propaganda that's so bad? What is the goal of the propaganda, and why is that bad? Explain that to me. That's what I want to explain.
Exactly. What? So you're saying them showing this light on this actual issue, they're just blowing it out of the waters, making it a non-issue, a big issue? It's like this. Millions of children go missing a year, especially at our southern border. As we don't send. The people on the other side, the Mexicans, send 85 million unaccompanied children. Actually, more than that. That's how many go missing.
I did really enjoy the movie. It's a good movie. It's well acted. I think the child actors did a phenomenal job.
Mm-hmm.
I truly do think they were better than the adults, and that's like no shade to them. I just think that they did for what they were given, especially since they don't know, especially they didn't know kind of what they were reacting to. That they did a phenomenal job.
They
especially
did.
The little girl, she did so good.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the movie was really, really good.
Yeah, it is really good, and all the actors did a great job, and it was well produced, even though it's not necessarily what we might have thought going into it, but it was still really well done.
Yeah. I'm also in an odd mood right now, so it may be a little cynical today.
Yeah. But I mean, Jim Caviezel does nothing less than a good movie, so.
I never watched Passion of the Christ. I refuse to watch it. I also am quite aware. I truly believe that God did not want that movie to be made. He was struck by lightning while hanging on the cross.
Exactly.
Have you ever seen the behind the scenes for that movie, by the way?
No.
I've never seen Passion of the Christ. I've seen all the behind scenes footage for him. It is him complaining the entire time. I think he had, I don't know how, I think it took a couple months to make that film. I truly think it was the worst couple months of his entire life.
Well, being struck by lightning, it caused so many issues. He had to have surgeries, and he was on medication for 9 years straight.
Well, even before that, that's the conclusion to this documentary about it. He's like, it's a really cold, but then they gave me these heaters, but the heaters they gave me are making me sick. So now I'm not cold, but I'm sick.
Hmm.
I could feel myself about to be struck by lightning, and then I was struck by lightning.
Hmm.
I was like, maybe maybe God did not want this film to be made.
Yeah.
That's one of the movies I refuse to watch, mostly because in eighth grade I was forced to watch 12 Years a Slave, and that really changed the trajectory of my life. Um, when it comes to movies, I don't think I think I was too young to watch.
Yeah. Isn't the Escape Plan, which the first Escape Plan, really great. Second one, stupid, and apparently the third one's terrible. I
What's
didn't
the
watch.
what's the escape plan?
It's like this guy gets locked. He works for the government and he gets locked in these super secure prisons because his goal is to escape and make sure the or not safety, security. And so like he's supposed to try to get out of these prisons. So he gets arrested for random reasons and booked into this most secure prisons and the goal is to escape. Hmm.
Is this a good movie? Do I need to watch this?
The first one is good. The second two, terrible.
That was on the Count of Monte Cristo. I've been meaning to read
Uh-huh.
it. I've been told a million times I've been reading. Angel Eyes sounds like a shady movie.
Yeah.
Oh, has Jennifer Lopez in it? Okay, I'm never watching that movie. We're going down another rabbit hole.
We are.
You need to stop making Christ-related movies. You're gonna get struck by lightning again, dude. Oh, he used to do westerns. I love westerns. Have you ever watched a western movie, like an old western movie?
Yeah.
They are so racist, it's funny.
Hmm.
I watched the one with Natalie Wood in it, and it was like 4 hours. And she's been kidnapped by Native Americans, and they spent like years looking for her, and they like finally find her, and like all she speaks is this made up Native American language. It's so bad. And they literally sorry,
Uh-huh.
indigenous people. And they like they like go and they like find her, and they're like, oh, they kidnapped a white woman, and he literally turns and she goes, she's no longer white. It was so good. I love Weston. So
Mhm.
he was in the Northman. Oh, a different one. I watched Northman. That movie gave me sh- like stress problems. Like I have trust issues with people because of the Northman. So this is like full human trafficking statistics. Not necessarily specifically child statistics, but everything we're gonna have a lot of this information, most actually all of this information linked. But this comes from the Human Trafficking Institute. And on their website, in like their mission statement area, they said around the world there's an estimated 24.9 million people who are victims of sex and labor trafficking. Although human trafficking is legal in every country, traffickers operate with impunity in places. And then they also have like a federal report of all the reported like actual cases. And
Mhm.
so considering how many people, like, just to like keep in mind like how big of an issue it is, keep in mind this 24.9 million and how little of these get
Uh-huh.
actually convictions. So in 2022 there were five forced cases of forced labor and 178 sex trafficking cases.
Mhm.
Isn't that, it's like such a little amount in comparison? It's sad.
Mhm.
There were 183 new criminal cases of human trafficking filed in the federal court system. Um, and so the number of court cases has been decreasing by like by a certain percentage every single year, which like but we do know that the number of actual victims of sexual trafficking is going up.
Mhm.
So the government is becoming more and more willing to kind of turn a blind eye to it.
Mhm.
So it says the most commonly identified methods of referral in sex trafficking cases. Okay, sorry, that's wrong. So in cases filed in 2022, victims of sex trafficking spent an average of 341 days in exploitation of the trafficker, and the average number of days on victims of forced labor spent in exploitation was 693. In the new cases, it said that about 39% of the victims were adults, 34% were minors, and 28% were ages unknown. So within that 28%, they just don't relate to these people. 96% of the victims were of sex trafficking, and 4% were of forced labors. And so there are 363 new victims in new cases filed in 2022.
Mhm.
Um, in 2022, there was also an entire hotel that was charged with human trafficking. Like they were using the hotel to traffic. So this is just in the United States.
Which, even at the ending credits, it said the United States is the most,
Mhm.
where the highest demand for.
Mhm.
Which is so sad. Shows how demonic our
Yeah.
country has gotten.
Hmm. So the rest of it just shows that, and then like the last thing about this is between 2019 and 2022, the top three most frequently identified payment platforms used to purchase commercial sex were Venmo, Cash App, and PayPal. Which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Really pretty easy to not track some of them there. So,
Yeah.
anyways, that is the information that I found. It's hard to kind of be like, with really, especially right now with the media, like so hard to cover everything up to
Yeah.
find these actual numbers. Um, even on like I even searched their website and stuff, and like
Mm.
I don't know, I couldn't find like good action numbers. That's a recommendation. If you are, that's a recommendation in your resources. Like, don't bury it. Like, please have like a full thing with all of the numbers.
Well, even in one of the interviews, Tim Ballard was like, it's hard. You Google, when I was working in the field, you Googled child sex trafficking and like nothing came up
Yeah.
because it's all hidden. Like they don't want you to know it's an actual issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like we have more information available to us now, but it's still not.
Like if I took like a month and like really went deep and like requested documents and stuff like that, I could find things. But you can't just find it. It's very difficult to find something from Google search.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that's because, well, Google probably is got some people paying them money to hide information.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Calista.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Tim Ballard and his operation. So the actual Tim Ballard, who's the movie off of.
Who's Mormon, by the way, if you didn't know. Which is
Yes.
why
They actually, so several of the people who, during the actual operation, like several of them were religious and Mormon and stuff and didn't drink. But when they staged this party, they had to make it as real as possible. So the day before, they dumped out a bunch of beer, and the Colombia uh government was so confused for like the CIA. It's not CIA. I don't remember what their version is, but they literally were so confused why they were dumping out beer, and they filled the bottles with apple juice.
bro.
because they couldn't drink. But they
Bro.
had to make it as real as possible so that the traffickers didn't suspect anything.
Bro, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I don't know what God Mormons praise, but I'm pretty sure he's not gonna. If you're saving kids, I'm pretty sure he'd let you.
Well, some of them were like, we don't actually know how we would react to it too, because like they never had any. So like
Yeah,
that would cause issues
I
too.
that's what I thought the story was going was that they were gonna get them used to what beer tastes like and just get a whole bunch of these Mormons like hammered the night before.
No, they had to set it up.
That's true. Mormons are crazy, y'all. Mormons are crazy. The fact that they're like, I am going to hell if I drink a Diet Coke is insane to me. I have thoughts on Mormons. We should do an entire episode where Allison just like talks about how much she doesn't like Mormons and then like watches the Book of Mormon. Okay, I'm
Okay,
done.
so Tim Ballard worked for the US government, but then stepped back as he felt he needed to help all the kids he could. He felt held back because the US government has its limits. Like obviously they can only do so much, especially because a lot of these kids were foreign. Like we don't really have the ability to step in and save these kids.
Mhm.
Okay. Tim Ballard was specifically a special agent for Homeland Security, and he was assigned to the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, which the fact that that is a unit we have to have is so sad. As he worked with the government, in his role, he had seen every type of case in the fight to dismantle child trafficking rings. He worked in the United States and in multiple foreign countries to infiltrate child trafficking organization. Wow. I added some extra syllables to
Organization.
organizations. Uh, in 2013, he stepped away because he saw that more needed to be done in the fight against child trafficking and exploitation across the world. Him and a team of former government oper- no, operatives left their jobs, which they had great job security, but they found like this calling and they were like, this is more important than my job. Like I I gotta go save these children, which is like incredible and brave. And together they formed Operation Underground Railroad. I don't know why I said it like that, but anyways. So according to their website, it says the stupid slide switched on me. We exist to rescue children from sex trafficking and sexual exploitation. We lead the fight against child sex trafficking and sexual exploitation around the globe. We will not give up and will continue to go to the darkest places until light is restored and every child is protected.
Do you write your notes in a PowerPoint presentation?
No.
Okay, just wondering. Because
Why?
you said slide.
Oh, because the website has
Okay.
a
Carousel.
carousel slideshow at the top and it switched on me and I was like, well, that was rude.
I just had a really weird. I was like, "Does she write her notes like a slideshow presentation?" That's quite
So,
odd.
so they have over 4,000 people involved in their operations. They've impacted 7,000 plus lives and they are involved in 60 6,500 or more arrests, which they've almost arrested more people. It's a centipede he's been playing with. I don't like centipedes. Um, they've uh
You're watching a cat torture a centipede right now?
yeah, I don't like centipedes. It's fine. It's also keeping him off of my stuff. And so overall they just like do both international operations and then they have relationships with like domestic law enforcement in order to help people here in the United States because, well, there's the issue here too. We might not have as many kids being trafficked out of our front yards or taken out of the front yards, but we're the number one consumer of these children who are stolen from their families. But yeah, so that is Operation Underground.
This movie should make you feel like I want to do something. I want to be a part of the movement for change. So here's some things that you can do. Our little call to action. You can donate to Operation Underground Railroad, which is Tim Cavalier. That's not it. Tim Ballard.
There you go.
Who am I talking about?
I have no clue.
Okay. Which is Tim Ballard's organization. You can also donate to the Human Trafficking Institute. Tim Ballard's mostly focused on children. Human trafficking is a little bit more on human trafficking and forced labor, which is something I'm learning about. I did not know that was a thing. Forced labor literally just sounds like slavery, so I would love to do an entire episode on that.
I mean, there's more people in slavery now than there was when slavery was legal.
Thank you.
I mean, there's probably more people in the world now than when slavery was legal, but
I'd like to say that Calista states this fact to me about once a month, and I don't know what the reasoning behind. I've heard this fact
never once stated this fact until
yes, you
now.
have, Calista. I've heard this so many different times. I don't know, like.
Okay.
I'm not lying. I've heard this fact from you before.
I don't remember ever saying this prior to watching the movie, but okay.
How many friends have you? How many months have we been friends? What, like 6 months?
Yeah.
I've heard this 6 different times from you.
Okay.
Good. We'll have links to where you can donate to them and their websites below. You can also to spread awareness, like, do not be quiet about this movie. Like, we've both been posting it on our Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And also, do not be quiet about the media's reaction to it. We should be calling out the media and making them look like clowns for the reaction to it, because they truly are being clowns and they are showing that they have an agenda when being against it.
They're also showing their weakness because they're like, well, we're not strong enough to stand up for this. So we have to make it seem like it's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're wrong for this because the media can't stand up for something that is true.
And finally, if you haven't yet, go see the movie. Like, literally, what are you waiting for? Like, finish this podcast first and then go see the movie. And if you know what, if you've already seen it and you're like, you know what, my next door neighbor, Sally, hasn't seen the movie, go grab some popcorn, some Milk Duds, and a Coca-Cola, and go see the movie. And you can do the Milk Duds and the Coca-Cola because Milk Duds are owned by Coca-Cola.
Okay.
That's a little movie fact for you there.
Or if you don't want to see the movie again, go watch somebody's kids so they can go see the movie.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll see it again, but I also am babysitting.
Weird call to action, but okay.
Well, I mean, there's people who can't see it because they have no one to watch their kids. So if you know a family,
drop your kids off at whatever kids movie is playing currently and go see the movie.
Drop your 3-year-old off. It's fine.
When I worked at Regal, people did it all the time.
I mean, they did it at the
That
pools too.
I get parents that would chew me out, and that would be like, why can I not take my 6-month-old to see Scream 6 with me? I was like, and they were like, because no one under 5 is admitted into that movie. And why do you want to take your sick? They're like, they're not even going to remember it. I'm like, the entire theater is going to remember when your baby starts screaming in the middle of the movie.
Exactly.
And to support this movie, there's a link in our Instagram bio where you can donate so people can get free tickets for the movie, and then Callista can babysit their kids so they can use those free tickets. We also have links
Sorry.
we also have links in the description below, and a post on our Instagram with links to supporting this movie where you can get tickets for the movie, and then all of our donation links as well.
And if you say you don't know where to get it, we just told you where to get it.
Yeah,
So there's no excuses.
after all of this, then maybe it's your fault. Maybe it's your problem. Don't, do you know what? Don't be like CNN. Go see the movie.
Exactly.
So, I've discovered my new favorite video on the planet recently, and that is a video of Just Stop Oil. So these Just Stop Oil protesters, I do not care, and I refuse to care what the Just Stop Oil protesters stand for. And I know it's for oil, but I don't care beyond that. These Just Stop Oil producers are taking this orange paint and they're spraying it all over this like building.
Mm-hmm. It's business. With this big, huge skyscraper.
Like huge skyscraper. And and then they all go and they go sit down and they're doing the little protesting thing. And then this man in a nice suit
Mm-hmm.
with the power washer comes out respectfully, just comes on out, like literally no care in the world, probably listening to a podcast, probably listening to some Britney Spears,
Mm-hmm.
just starts calmly power washing the windows.
My question is, why did they have this power washer?
No, literally, where does the power washer come from?
They just have it in the closet in case of times like these.
It is not a random person off the street. The man looks like he is the CEO of that company.
Exactly.
And he comes and he just starts power washing. And my favorite part of that, and he's like calmly, completely ignoring them. Like they're like glaring, they're chanting. Mm-hmm. He's shh, shh, spraying down. And then my favorite part of it is one of the little protesters decides that he's going to be a little naughty dude. And he takes his hand and he puts it in the paint that's already on there, and he starts wiping it all over the window that the guy just power washed. The guy simply finishes power washing the window he's on, takes 2 steps back, resprays down the one that the guy messed up again, and then just continues on with his way. I've watched this video no less than 15 times in the past week.
So my second question, besides where did this power washer come from? Is this oil-based paint? Because that would be really funny.
Callista, this is my favorite video on the planet. It's so good.
It is. It is so good, but I'm like, they're protesting, but is it oil-based paint?
I love this video. For one, I don't know what.
Hi, this is Editing Allison. I just wanted to pop in here real quick and say that the joke that Callista made went completely over my head, and I now understand it. I'm going to credit her with it because oil-based paint, Just Stop Oil, that is very funny. All right, back to the rest of the episode.
Paint spray they're using, but it sprays quite nicely. It's big. I'm rewatching the video right now. It is a massive, massive water pressure gun.
Yeah.
Long. And he does it
My
so well. Like, he
Mhm.
literally is so organized about it. He gets to those windows fast.
Yeah. My favorite videos are the ones where it's like climate protesters protesting cars and they sit in the middle of the road and they either glue themselves or they don't glue themselves and people will just calmly park their car, hook them under their arms and just drag them to the side of the road and continue driving.
That's what I would do. I have lost my tolerance for other people.
Oh,
I'm done. Like, I've lost my tolerance for other people. This year on campus, I'm a menace. If you're not out of the way of my bike, I'm driving through you. Especially if you're on one of your little electric longboards, you're dead. I don't care.
yeah.
In fact, I will find a way to put my bike in reverse. I will back on up and then continue forward.
Hmm.
I love also the ones where they glue their hands to the ground and then the police officers come through and they just rip their hands off the ground and they
Yeah.
start screaming. It is so funny.
And then the one where they were protesting milk and they just poured the milk out in the grocery store. I'm like, how's that effective? Because you just took milk that could have been used for like normal people and you just poured it on the ground. So now basically you've taken it from being used and you've wasted it.
Yeah, they've created food waste and they've stolen.
Exactly.
And I would hope, as a police officer, police officer Allison comes to the scene.
Hmm.
I have the little hat and my taser.
Okay.
I'd start off by tasing them, just straight off the bat, just for fun. And
Then
my
you
part,
wait. First you go to shake their hand.
I
And you
know that
have you have one of the like the little kids party tasers that don't do anything, but that's how you start as a little warning. But it's like a tiny warning. And then you just straight up go into it.
I'd be like, go in and they'll be like, and they'll be like, what was that? I'll be like, I gotcha. You thought you were tased. He was like, yeah, I thought I was tased. That was so funny. I was like, imagine if I like actually tased you like this, and then I tased them.
Yeah.
And then I was like, hey, get up. And I like kicked at them a little bit, and then I made them get up, and then I would make them go get a mop, and then I would have them mop up their milk.
And then you would take all the empty cartons, you'll have the person at the register ring them all up, and then you'll have them pay.
And if it's a Fred Meyer and it's Fridays, I'm using my number so I can get times 4 gas points.
Yeah, you're gonna just type your number in.
I need those fuel rewards. Exactly.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it'd be like, you know what, you can buy me a Starbucks too. I'll take a grande white chocolate macadamia nut cold foam cold brew. Thank you. Light ice.
But these climate protesters, I'm like, or
What?
these Just Stop Oil protesters, like, I'm like, what is their goal? Because really, they're just causing more issues. My favorite, just last week, some socialist environmental person, can't remember what country, but their first ever socialist leader, who's like all about the environment, flies her private jet to the location about 2 miles away. Then she hops on a bike and she bikes into the conference. But she has her security all around her driving cars. Yet the people can't fly and the people can't drive because of the environment. But she's riding a bike, saving the planet, riding a bike 2 miles.
This is why I love climate protesters. I love climate protesters so much. They are the most useless protesters on the planet. They do nothing. All they do is inconvenience other people. And then
or inconvenience themselves because then they get super glue themselves to the ground and then they have to wait for somebody to come save them.
And every single person on the planet hates them, rightfully so. My goal in life is to become best friends with a climate protester.
It was so funny because, like, they don't, well, other than, like, wasting milk occasionally and spray painting, not even, it's like water. It's just with the power washer, it comes right off. But
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
they
That is
don't.
the hype. I don't know what power washer that person got it from, but that is not a power washer I could go into a store and buy. That is like a high power, government grade, like that's like an Oppenheimer power washer.
Yeah, I still don't know. Like, they're just in the maintenance closet. They have a power washer for some reason. They just
They keep
occasionally are
that.
like, the lobby floor is a little dirty, and I don't feel like mopping it today, so let me just power wash it.
They keep that power washer locked in the White House basement.
There we go. Yes.
That pressure washer is the hero of this entire story. That's the moral of this segment.
Exactly.
Are we ready to conclude this episode?
We are, in fact, ready.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of I Don't Want to Talk About Politics. Make sure that you check us out on Instagram at IDW_podcast. Also, make sure you check out our personal Instagrams at Allie.joy173 and
Callista J1776.
as always in the description below, you can check out our references, send us a voice message / email. I don't know why I put Gmail. As well as support the podcast. We'll also have all those links below that we were talking about earlier. For those listening on Spotify, make sure that you vote in this week's poll, this is a stupid question. We're contemplating starting this up in September, but our question is, do you think that we should do visual episodes? That's a weird way of putting that. Do you think that we should start filming the podcast? I'm struggling. Phyllis is dying.
I don't know why, but that just didn't sound right.
It'll be like your PowerPoint. That's just the episode is us putting the entire. We transcribe into a PowerPoint. Callista, what are we talking about next week?
Next week we'll be talking about probably the most controversial and polarizing topic in the current political cycle: transgender kids. 13 episodes ago, we kicked off this podcast by talking about biological men taking over women's sports. We're back on the topic of transgenders, except this time we're doing a deep dive on how gender-affirming care is harming our society for the worst.
This is the first time that we've made it through without any mistakes on my part.
Or my part, because occasionally I just can't say words.
But every single time it feels like I've accidentally sabotaged Callista. All right.
You did at the beginning of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote the name wrong. No, you wrote the wrong person.
Yeah.
Miguel saved 10.
I watched that movie. Like half of it is Tim being in like therapy with his father, and the other half is Miguel like freeing the children of the world.
Exactly.
All right. Make sure that you check out the Instagram for more content. We are currently working on an exciting new project that we'll be announcing in August, so keep a lookout for that. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. We'll see you next week.